Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll get into the scuffling Royals season, now maybe rapidly going down the tubes. We'll talk about the NHL Finals, the thrilling Game 7. But on a relatively slow sports news week, at least in maybe our concerns, at least, our top story today will be a Hallmark movie that'll be being filmed in Kansas City. Mike, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most excited, how much are you looking forward to Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story?
Well, it depends on what scale you use, 1 to 10. But if it's based on my normal Hallmark movie hopes versus this one, I guess it would be a 10 because I don't care about any
Ah,
Hallmark movie usually. But
of
this
the
one,
Hallmark movies, it's a 10. Okay.
yeah. But this I'd say maybe a five-ish because I think it's cool that it's filmed in Kansas City, and it's kind of funny that the Chiefs are becoming so popular among I guess you would say, I guess women would be the target demographic for Hallmark Channel movies. So maybe the Chiefs are the most recognizable team now. And Hallmark, I guess, of course, is a Kansas City company, so maybe that was part of it too. But
So
I think
they had
it's
an inside track on that posting, I would
yeah,
assume. Right?
yeah,
Yes.
um, yeah, the Crown Center and stuff. So yeah, I think it was cool that if we filmed at Arrowhead, and I guess it's got the Chiefs' blessing, so it won't be like fake football teams,
Generic football teams, right?
in generic like footage and stuff with random helmets that are I think it'll be good that the Chiefs. I wonder if other teams will be in it at all. Like, would they be at a game that Chiefs play some, but would they play against some generic team? That would be funny if they did, but
No, no.
um,
Yeah, because they did what was it the replacements with Keanu Reeves?
yeah, they were like the Sharks or something.
They had just like sort of generic team names instead of, but they filmed it at well, lots of the scenes at least anywhere filmed I think in Washington's football
Oh yeah,
park. Was it RFK Stadium at the time?
would have been RFK back then probably. Yeah.
I think they filmed a lot of it like during like like at halftime during games. The fans would be full of fans.
Oh, I see.
And so it looked the same, but then they had to like sort of like wipe out like, any actual like images of what the actual team, the NFL teams, they didn't have like permission for that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But they were able to film there, but they couldn't use any of the imagery of the, team logos and stuff. But
I don't think I've actually seen that movie all the way through. I've only
I don't
seen
know.
parts of it.
No, you're not a huge Keanu fan? You don't watch all the Keanu
I think
movies?
he's one of the worst actors of our time. I think he seems like a very nice man, but he is a terrible, terrible, terrible actor,
Mm.
and he
They want to
shouldn't.
stretch where I actually enjoy most of his movies. Like the 90s and 2000s. Like I watched most of his movies at that time, man.
Yeah, the John Wick movies.
So I saw the first one. The newest ones, I have not seen any of them.
I haven't seen the series, apparently the Continental or whatever it's called. I've watched the movies. It's basically Harry Potter, but it has hitmen in it.
Right.
Uh, it's more, I guess it's more violent, but
Yeah.
but I don't. I think he's actually getting to be a little better actor as time goes on. He's not quite as dumb seeming in most of his work, but he's not.
Well, he
He's
played some really dumb characters to begin with, though. So like,
yeah, but he even when he was trying not to be dumb, it came
Speed,
across.
like Speed, The Matrix.
I never thought the Matrix was that. I just never thought the Matrix was that good or interesting. So I'm not a,
Come on, man.
I'm not. I saw it one time and I was not like that
Oh,
amazed.
wow.
So
Johnny Mnemonic.
yeah, no, I don't think. Yeah, it's a little like the work. I believe Keanu Reeves is right. He's like maybe the James Cameron of actors, very
Hmm.
popular, but somehow beneath me. I don't find any of his movies like they aren't that clever or interesting. They're a little dumb. James Cameron movies this is going a lot of time, but like Terminator 2, it's a dumb movie. Like it gets
Stop.
like credit for being cool and innovative, but it's like really dumb. And Titanic is pretty dumb for what it is, and I think Avatar is dumb. I think all of the like they're like even
I refuse to watch Avatar because I gave up on James Cameron really long before that. So
I
no,
haven't
I've
seen,
not even
I
seen
actually
it.
haven't seen Avatar either, so I'm happy about that.
I think
But
we're the two. We're the two people that did not see
yeah,
Avatar.
yeah, I saw the Terminator movies, and
Seen
yeah,
that.
I thought Terminator was funny, but it was fun, but it was like yeah, dumb. And I think it's just because I think James Cameron's sensibilities are a little closer to Michael Bay's than Steven Spielberg,
Oh,
and
yes, for sure.
but Michael Bay at least leans into his uh, kind of dumbness, whereas I think James Cameron doesn't. So it comes off worse. That's my movie analysis for the week.
You're not going to get any arguments from me on James Cameron, but
But
on
but
Keanu, though, I'll
Keanu Reeves
argue
you
with
prefer. Yeah. Do you listen to Dogstar, his band?
you. No, I know it exists, and I know he's in it, but I know I never
I
was
haven't.
a fan of that. I
The,
don't know that
you
I've
know,
ever even heard a song of it.
did you
Dogs.
see speaking of Keanu Reeves, did you see the Point Break remake?
I actually never saw the first Point Break. Like
It was dumb too, but it's kind of funny. Um, it's got Swayze. It's more of a Swayze movie than
the
a
Keanu's in.
Swayze has a lot more charisma. He's also not a great actor, but he's got a lot more charisma, I think, than Keanu does.
Yeah.
So like it's his it's like
Apparently,
peak
he didn't see Constantine because he was like,
it's peak Swayze.
yeah.
I think you could put Swayze into Keanu Reeves's parts, and I think it would still be a decent movie. But I don't think you can put Keanu Reeves into any of Swayze's iconic roles.
You
And
don't want to see a remake of Ghost with Keanu
Ghost,
Reeves?
Keanu Reeves, or Dirty Dancing with Keanu Reeves,
Yeah, I'd watch it.
or Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze switching parts in Point Break.
Yeah, how different would that movie have been if they had received the opposite role?
That would be
I
really.
can't say because I have not actually seen either of them. So, well, the one
I
with
think
them,
it's been a long time since I've seen it, but
the new one wasn't. They weren't in. Neither of them were in the new
no,
Point
because it was
Break,
just
right?
a
Yeah,
remake of it, and it did terribly because nobody wants to see a remake of Point Break when the original of Point Break is still. Like, if you want to watch a bad movie, they will watch the original Point Break and
so
enjoy it
who's
for
in the new? Who plays who's the new Keanu? And
no, I have to look it up now. Edgar Ramirez,
that
Luke
seems.
Bracey,
Uh,
Ray Winston was in it. It it was a $105 million budget, but it made 133 million. So I guess it did.
was it Luke Bracey? It was Johnny Utah. Wasn't
Johnny
that
Utah.
the
Johnny Utah
but
was the FBI agent. Yeah, and then
Luke
Edgar Ramirez
Bracey?
was the eco-terrorist. That was, I guess. So I guess it
Uh,
wasn't quite the same since it was eco-terrorism rather than like bank robbery, because that's what Patrick Swayze's got characters. They just dressed in ex-president masks and robbed banks, I think.
yeah.
And but yeah, Swayze was
So do you, so Edgar Ramirez is Patrick Swayze,
yeah.
and Bracey is Keanu
I'd
Reeves.
argue that probably neither of those actors could even be as charismatic as Swayze or Keanu Reeves. Um, but
Well, that was a lot longer ago. That was 2015. It was the new.
it
Like, it wasn't
seems
even really new.
no, it's 9 years old now. Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
Johnny Utah.
Yes. Okay. So you're a
Road.
no on Keanu Reeves, a no
How
on
about-
James Cameron.
Oh, they also made a Roadhouse remake.
That like just came out, I think. Isn't that The Jake Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal Roadhouse remake, which was less necessary, Roadhouse remake or a Point Break remake?
That's tough. I
I
don't know
don't.
why you make either one of them, but
I think yeah. I don't think
it
you. I don't
seems
know
like
you would.
well, it seems like if you change the plot like they did in what you're saying they did after Point Break,
They
it's
changed a
really
little
not
bit
Point
to
Break
it.
anymore. It's just like the characters, I guess, but it's like totally different scenarios. Not really a remake, I guess, even right? So
I don't know. I think it's got some. I think they probably did the hell. I probably did the skydiving scene at the end. I don't
yeah.
know, but I I don't know why they
So I
would.
would say that maybe the Roadhouse is less point in remaking it. So was that what would you vote on this one?
Yeah, I think Roadhouse is a worse movie probably than Point Break. It's also more dated, so you would say maybe it needs a remake more. But it also is based on, I think, somewhat based on. I mean, we've talked about this before, based on the Skidmore bully in Northwest Missouri. There was a famous City Confidential about the Skidmore bully, and Ben Gazzara basically plays the bully who runs the town, and then in Skidmore, the bully whose name was Ken Rex McElroy was kind of he had the control of the law enforcement, and like he intimidated people and stole people's stuff and like beat people up and like it got nothing, no repercussions. A little bit like Ben Gazzara's character. I can't remember his name in the Roadhouse movie, but he ends up getting shot in public and killed, and then nobody says who it is, and that's how the actual Ken Rex McElroy also died. He was shot in broad daylight in like the street on the street, and everybody saw it, but nobody would report who did it. So it was like it was based on the same thing. So I'm of the
Okay.
that at least it was inspired that Roadhouse, the original Roadhouse, because it also takes place in Missouri. The bar is in rural Missouri. Was inspired by the Skidmore bully. But the new Roadhouse does not take place in Missouri. It takes place instead in the Florida Keys.
Ah,
So, and
so
Dalton
there is a lot of change then too.
and Dalton is not a philosophy graduate student from Columbia University. Instead, he is a UFC ex-UFC fighter.
Yes.
And I don't think they
There were,
probably
I
have.
think there were other UFC people in the movie
Do
too,
they have
right?
a blind blues playing house band that seems to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan uh, in the new one? I don't know.
I don't know. Post Malone is in it though, so
Oh, the brutal fist fight. Post Malone's in it.
maybe he's the band person in the new movie. I don't know.
I I didn't see it. Oh, he's in it. Oh, he's
Yeah,
Austin Post. Austin Post, yeah.
Austin as Austin Post, yes, playing the character Carter.
I think Carter was probably one of either henchman or one of Dalton's friends.
I don't know. I did not see the movie. Did you? Have you seen the Neil?
No, I haven't seen the new one.
What else now?
I think it was on Amazon Prime, so maybe you could watch it.
Yeah,
Prime Video. Maybe should we watch it before next week
maybe.
and
That'll be our homework for next week. Is to watch.
compared to what the original Roadhouse
Would you have to
is?
rewatch the original Roadhouse
Yeah,
to
I'd have to find
capture
it.
its full like nuance? Or would you say you remembered enough to not have to do
I
that again?
remember it enough, I think, but I've seen it a few times. I think maybe it's on Hulu
I just like the Family Guy parody of
or
Roadhouse.
Max. Might be on Max too.
Have you seen that the Family
Have you
Guy
ever heard
parody?
it? No.
Peter just goes around. Peter Griffin just goes around kicking stuff, like roundhouse kicking stuff, and saying Roadhouse as
I
he kicks something.
guess it's kind of funny.
It's like a 3 minute over and over and over
Well,
again.
that's what
Thing.
that's Family Guy. They
Yeah,
beat something to death.
yes, that is their thing.
Yeah, but speaking of being
I knew that's what you're into.
to death or beaten near death, being near death and then beating the opponent, I guess we should say, is the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, where the Edmonton Oilers clawed back from a 3-0 deficit to tie the series at 3-3, and then they lost in heartbreaking fashion 2-1 in Game 7 against the Florida Panthers. So, Dr. Chef, your Florida Panthers ended up winning the Stanley Cup over a Canadian cold weather franchise that for a country that hadn't won in 30 something years. Do
Yeah.
you feel that the Florida Panthers took the title?
Yeah, I'm all for the warm weather cities teams winning all the hockey tournaments. I think it's more amusing that way, at least anyway, and more devastating for the cold weather, especially the cold weather country that
Yeah,
continue their
Canada.
droughts. Yeah. How much
Yeah.
of the series did you end up watching? Like
I only watched like highlights of some of the games. I didn't end up watching it in a series. Um, uh,
in Edmonton's comeback though, the games were relatively uneventful.
Blowouts. Yeah,
They were
yeah.
just
Fun.
blowouts.
The other
Does
games
it
were close lots of times. Yeah. The
to be down 3-0 and then come roaring back that much is were you surprised that they didn't go ahead and finish off the series?
I think had game 7 been in Edmonton, they would have won probably. But I think going back to Florida, um, it's tough. And hockey's one of those things where it can go either way, can maybe swing the momentum and yeah. So I guess I guess I think was it 1941 or something. Maple Leafs were the only NHL team to come down to be down 3-0 and win the Stanley Cup Finals.
But it had
Um,
happened once.
in 80 years ago.
I
Yeah.
think another team had come back from 3-0, but then also
Oh, okay.
lost. So I think that was the third time that a team had come back from 3-0 to force a game 7.
Yeah. And I think the only other one that has that the other sport that happened is just the Yankees Red Sox um 2004 ALCS.
Yeah.
And then they swept the Cardinals in the World Series. That I'm sure you were happy about that, Dr. Scaff. In 2004, 20 years ago. But yeah, that was. We'll come back to maybe 20 years ago Royals in a second. But did you see that Connor McDavid, whose team lost the Stanley Cup Finals, he won the playoff MVP award? Do you agree with that, or do you think teams from players from losing teams should be able to win awards like most valuable player or most valuable um, you know uh, you know they do that in soccer tournaments a lot. They'll have the most outstanding
Mm.
player be somebody on the losing team, but in American sports usually that does not happen.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. And I think it hasn't happened in quite a while, I think, that a player on a losing team's won. But yeah, it seems very strange to have I mean, it seems like you would think that at least, who scored the game winner in the final game would be the odds on favor. But, maybe that wasn't
Yeah.
somebody who contributed that much.
In American sports, Chuck Howley, who won the Super Bowl V MVP for the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys actually lost that game to the Baltimore Colts, but he won MVP that game.
Wow.
So
So that's the only time in
the only time in
the
58.
NFL?
Yeah. But I guess you could say NHL, it's not just for the final, it's not just the final series, it's for the playoffs as a whole.
Yeah.
So they award a playoff MVP rather than a just a finals MVP. So you could say maybe it's a slightly different criteria set. So maybe the runner up, it's okay for them to win it. Um, I think it's fine.
McDavid is the sixth player. The most
Hmm.
recent was 2003.
Oh, it's been a while.
Jean-Sebastien Giguère
Hmm.
won as a from the losing team.
Yeah. Um, yeah, 21 years ago, 2003.
Yeah.
Speaking of 2003, that was maybe the last Cinderella Royals team that did really well, and nobody expected them to do it. But they also that year were out to a huge lead on the division and were way over 500, but then they collapsed towards the end and barely finished above 500, 83 and 79. Are the 2024 Royals more like the 2003 Royals, or are they more like the 2014, 2015, um, contending Royals?
Yeah. Well, the 2014, 2015 teams like sort of hovered around 500. Well, the 14 team until
And,
they really got hot at the end of the year.
and 13 was like that too, but they didn't quite make the playoffs that year. They
Yeah,
were
they made
they
like
were
a furious push towards the playoff and were relevant until the last month of the season, which was something that they had not done
yeah.
in probably since the 2003 season.
Yeah, since 2003 probably. But yeah, they remember 2003 they were way ahead in that division, and then they dropped to 83-79. So the Royals right now, they lost for the 19th time in their last month or so. So they were 34-19 to start the season. They've been 9-19 since, so they're 43-38 on pace to finish 86-76. But uh
And I think, as you mentioned right before we started recording, that they would have to win their next
25 games to
20.
match their opening stretch. So they went 34-53. So to win 34-53, the Chiefs, I mean, the not Chiefs, the Royals would have to win uh, 25 consecutive games, which of course has never been done in the history of baseball. So it's not going to happen. But the Royals lost again tonight. They did win the night before with Reagan's pitching. Lugo pitched really well tonight. Starting pitching's been good. Hitting's been bad. Bullpen's been bad. Um, what did the Chiefs?
They got shut out for the first time this season. They got swept for the first time this
Yeah.
season.
What do they need to do to switch things around, or is this really who they are? This is more like who we thought they'd be at the beginning of the season, maybe a 70-win team. We were hoping they're
Yeah,
playing like that.
maybe the question we should be asking is, do we think that they'll be above 500 at the All-Star break? Is that they're pushing very rapidly towards that now. And I
Yeah,
don't know how they're going to get out of this right now because they're losing games to Oakland and Miami, or lower third of the Major League Baseball right now. So they're now they've gone from holding their own against good teams and beating up on the bad teams to getting wiped out by good teams and barely holding their own against not so good teams. So I don't know how they're gonna be above 500 much longer at this rate.
yeah. I think they need to get some trade. They need, I would say, at least one good outfield bat and
Mm.
probably somebody else to be a closer, and then maybe move everybody else down a rung in the bullpen to have any
But
chance.
I think just the problem that is that there are no rungs, that they're all like it's just some kind of like soupy pot that they just sort of like reach into and like
Yeah,
pluck someone out and use in a random scenario. It seems like maybe if they had runs, maybe they would actually play better. They had roles.
yeah. Well,
Not a crazy
MacArthur's been
strategy.
closer. He hasn't been so good lately. He's like the only one that has a role, right? Or at least super defined.
But I mean, yes, but they will also bring him in like the seventh inning of a game randomly too, as in a non-safe situation. Like they're really, I mean, he is the closer, James MacArthur, but they won't use him exclusively in that role. And if they like are getting blown out, they don't bring him in just to get work in. It's just like a random time that they'll decide to like pull him out to use him. And then when he gets in these other situations, like it's not a safe situation. I mean, he's been not very good, and
Yeah.
they brought him in to try to like get out of jams, stuff like that. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, the Royals seem to be proving over and over again that these old strategies that used to be used and were disproven back then are still not being proven now, and they won't abandon these things.
Well, what did they ever say what Mac Quatrero's personal issue was? He left. he didn't manage a couple of at least one game.
Missed, like the last game of the last series. So Paul Hoover filled in as interim manager.
Two game
Like I
absence
said,
for personal matter. So
personal
let's
matter, yes. They said he wouldn't be gone for long. But we
attending
also
to
saw uh, Jordan Lyles leave the team for a personal matter, and he has not returned. That was
yeah.
like 2 months ago.
This would also be a great Hallmark movie, don't you think? Personal matter, where the Royals manager leaves to go back home for 2 days to tend to a personal matter and falls in love with local florist or something like that, and then it becomes uh, a. But then he has to go back on the. But then his personal matter's over. He has to go back to managing the team. You think that would be a good Hallmark movie? Personal
Yeah,
matter. Personal matter, a Kansas City Royals story.
hopefully someone from the Hallmark Corporation is watching this episode, and you're probably going to get a phone call here pretty soon. Is what I'm my guess.
I should. Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
We need you to write this, Mike.
I guess Mac Wachera is probably married, so he'd probably have to take a few liberties and make him single, or maybe he'd be attending to his wife's untimely death funeral, and then, but then it's a little quick to fall in love with the local florist. So
Yeah, this sounds more like an FX show or something than possibly than maybe something for the Max network, something like that, right?
yeah, yeah. So it would be a yeah, yeah.
Paramount Plus at least.
Paramount Plus,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Peacock, perhaps.
Mm. Any
Um,
of the streaming services looking for content though? It seems like we have
yeah, they got it. They got to
a
fill this
budding
content.
screenwriter here.
Yeah, that was a good personal. I think that would be a good Hallmark. There's the Hallmark Hallmark Plus. I think you can get. I think there's a Hallmark streaming app that maybe your friend and my friend Adam Mitchell would know about, since apparently he is a Hallmark movie devotee,
Yes.
which I didn't know about until
Yeah.
just earlier today. Um, but um, yeah, I think we've run out of germane sports topics for. Oh, we didn't. I guess we could talk a little bit about the Copa America and the soccer
Hmm.
tournament. The USA beat Bolivia 2-0, 2-0. If you want to, do you think it should be 2-0?
I think it's stupid terminology, but that is the terminology of soccer.
I don't think it's the terminology of soccer. I think it's simply the terminology of British people.
Uh,
And I think there's a difference. So I don't think we should always use just British usage for things in soccer. Like they
we
call it now,
still use soccer. They don't use soccer.
yeah, but they call it the field the pitch now. Everybody
Right.
calls it that's not an
But
American term.
do you call it a
And
pitch or do you call it a field?
field, I refuse to go to pitch. And I don't want to say like, England are doing great. Uh,
Hmm.
England is, or this, or
But it's a
the
team, so it's not a country, though.
yeah, it's the team is doing well. It's not the
Yeah.
team are doing well, it's the team is doing well. It's a
Yes.
collective singular. And so I don't like that. I don't like when American announcers slip into what I think is just Britishisms rather than um, the actual soccer or football terminology. Um, so that's my problem. Uh, and I because I think in like other languages, it's the term is field. I think it's campo in Spanish, for example, which would be field rather than pitch. I have no idea what that even means. Um, but
Should we use the Spanish terms then instead of the
well,
British terms, British English terms?
like yeah, I think so. I think we should, or I should just we should just use American terms and say zero. The allowed instead of it's a clean sheet. It would be a shut. We call it a shutout.
Yeah.
And it's not just in American football. We can call it shutout in multiple sports.
Right.
So I think it crosses over into so we would still call it shutout in soccer, even if British people they might call a football shutout, an American football shutout, they can call it a clean sheet in England. I think that would be fine because that's the English term for it. I don't think it's the term specific to the sport. It's just a term that is more specific to the nationality of the speaker.
Duh.
Um, And so I think trying to, I think maybe there's a difference between, although you do say love, in tennis, but I think love is the tennis term though, rather than
Just a
zero. So I
British
think,
term for zero in,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
love. Yeah, that's at least I'm happy with saying love, but I'm not so happy saying nil. I don't support that.
So you pick and choose the things that you're annoyed by. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I sometimes will call a two-goal effort a brace, though, which is the British term for it. It's a hat trick. They still say a hat trick for three, uh, which I think is actually, or they say a treble sometimes they'll say instead of a hat trick. But I would say a hat trick for a third goal. But uh, a brace, have you heard, do you know what a brace refers to?
Mm. Mm.
It's a hunting term. If you remember, a hunter would if a hunter would shot two um, like game birds, like he'd carry one back in each arm, and that would be a
Yeah.
brace. French bras, BRAS for arm, so for one for each arm. Um, but in one of the I can't remember. It's either think it's Return of the King. Samwise Gamgee's talks about a brace of conies. That you remember that line? Which had a brace of
I do not
conies.
remember that now.
Conies being rabbits, and a brace, two rabbits to throw in a stew, with his potatoes. I
Yes.
imagine. Uh, so a brace of conies. So that would be two. But so the two goals is a brace, and um, I'd still say
Well, it's
three
funny
goals.
that it's one for each hand, but you're not allowed to use your hands.
Or your arm. Yeah, yeah. A brace. It should be something with
Yes.
legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get jambe, jambe is like game. Our
Mm.
word comes from jambe, the French leg. But um, I assume that's where it comes from. Gams and jambe. That's my guess. Um, but anyway, so we did talk a little soccer. The USA won against Bolivia. They will also play Panama and Uruguay or Uruguay in their group games. Should we win the Copa America and also win Euro 2024, the European Soccer Championships, get into the knockout stages? Should we make bets on who we think is going through?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, Euro 2024. I think the elimination rounds, the knockout stages, as they call it, the single elimination tournament stage, is coming up very soon. So we'll look at.
Okay, so
We'll have to,
the USA Uruguay game is on Monday in Kansas City. So we should be able to get our next episode, Morning Track Power, will be shortly after that,
yes,
before the knockout round begins.
yeah. So they knock out
Is it 8 teams that advance or
the
four?
16. Oh wait, for in Copa America.
Yeah,
Copa America, I think it's eight.
yeah.
I think it's 16 out of 24
So the top two of each
in
group move on.
yeah. I think it's 16 out of 24 in Euro and for the Euros. So it's a 16, and then it's a
Okay.
eight for Copa America, because there are only 12 teams in Copa America.
Yeah.
Um, or wait, 16 teams in Copa America. Um,
Yeah.
so they'll do first and second. But yeah, so we'll see if USA qualifies, and see how much their odds are. Argentina, I think, is the favorite probably with Messi, and then Brazil probably.
Maybe first you think the US will advance. I think they're in good shape right now. Are they going to at
Yeah,
least
I
hold
think
on to their current position and advance to the knockout phase?
if they get a point, I'd say if they get a point against
Panama.
Uruguay, or if they get 2 points across, if they tie twice, or if they win one of the games, I think they're going to be through, and I think they'll do that. And they're better than Panama. I think they can possibly get a tie with Uruguay, but I can see them beating them, but it's probably unlikely. Uruguay's still pretty good, even though it's a tiny, tiny country. They still have won 2 World Cups in their history.
which is two more than the U.S.
Yes.
Well, this is being played in the U.S., so there's a home. They're all home games for the
They are. And you could
U.S.
say that the
national team.
teams that they're playing, they aren't playing like Mexico in the group stage. So they're or like some other, maybe Guatemala or some other Central American country where like the fans of that country would almost outnumber the American fans. And I don't think Panama and Uruguay are going to travel in the same way. So, or
Yeah,
have not really an Uruguayan expat community in
Atlanta
um,
or Kansas City.
yeah, or maybe there's some Panamanians, but it's smaller than like a lot of the other Central American uh,
Yeah,
populations in this country. So, partly because it's nicer to live in Panama and Uruguay than it is a lot of other some of those other at least until recently, at least until in some of those other Central American places. So, no one's really leaving, but I guess we'll
those
really
are
leave.
relatively wealthy nations then too,
They
right?
are, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Um, yeah. So I guess we'll leave as well here tonight on the One Trip Power Hour. Uh, Come back next week where we will talk about betting probably, but then I think the European Euro 2024 will have the knockout stages, and I think we're also maybe going to predict, if not bet, on who the Royals draft pick, first round draft pick will be. I believe they're picking sixth overall this year.
right.
Um, and then they have a couple other early draft picks, and we'll have some predictions. Maybe talk about who we think the first pick is going to be. Paul Skeens last year's draft is already making big strides in Major League Baseball this year, so maybe we'll see the them contribute sooner rather than later. Uh,
I
I
have very
guess this
little hope for who they're going to pick anyway. Maybe we'll
I
be
guess
pleasantly surprised.
maybe less than surprised. I guess this episode has ended sooner rather will end sooner rather than later as well. We didn't we did talk a lot about movies though today. But and I guess we have homework. Are we going to try to watch the new Roadhouse before
For
next
the
week's
next
episode?
episode, yes. Yeah, that should be our goal.
Okay. And all of our viewers and listeners should also try to watch the new Roadhouse so they know what we're talking about. And if you haven't seen the old Roadhouse, watch the old Roadhouse as well.
Yes. Excellent.
All right. Um, yeah, I think that'll conclude our day today at the on the old podcast slash YouTube channel. As always, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. It's available however you receive your podcasts, basically. It's ubiquitous in the podcastosphere. And um, just as the Warning Track Power will be ubiquitous in all the minds of all inquisitive and just passionate sports fans. Maybe
Sure.
we're running off the rails here. Uh, so we'll call it a day, call it a night, call it an evening, an afternoon, whatever time you're listening to us. Uh, and we hope your teams that they play are playing. I guess the only ones that are playing right now are baseball and international soccer. And I guess you have a WNBA team. Wish them the best of luck. And uh, and I guess I was gonna recycle our ending, but I stopped myself just short. And so we will end it right here. So thanks for watching the Wonder Trek Power Hour, listening to the Wonder Trek Power Hour. Until next time, we wish you a good day.